everyone. I'm Dr. Duke, and welcome to Political Jazz at Oliver McGee. Each week, we dive into D.C. politics and speak directly to former White House senior advisor Oliver McGee. Oliver, it has been 2 relentless years for Donald Trump. The media, the politicians, the late-night comedians all had this man frog-walked and strung up. And yet, after all of the Mueller hype, the big man's got nothing. What do you think about this development for Donald Trump?
Well, as President Ford said in 1974 when Nixon resigned, my fellow Americans, our long enduring nightmare is over. The Constitution wins and the people win. And so this was a great day for America. And this long nightmare is over. I was thrilled to see the drop. It was a surprise to everyone. And I think that pretty much so they had no choice but to come with no collusion. And if you have no collusion, how can you obstruct justice? So I think we're not getting from A to B to C properly. And Mueller had a very difficult task here. He had to prove in the court of public law a very difficult set of circumstances. And he did as much best as he could, 2,800 subpoenas and 500 interviews and 500 witnesses that are spoken to. And basically, he had to come to a conclusion. How can a president, Donald Trump, who was campaigning every 48 hours to 10,000 people in front of the public cameras, have time to collude when he was not in charge of the government, and he just simply could not pull off some type of what they call now a Russian hoax. So I always reminded what Van Jones of CNN said very early on, this Russian collusion thing is a big nothing burger, and it was placed in the public discourse and the media by the Clinton campaign. So I think right now the media has a lot of egg on their face, particularly those networks that were really trying to condemn the president in the court of public opinion. And now everyone is basically walking all of this back.
Speaking of the Clintons, I'm quick to point out, I think, that if we had spent 1/100th of the time, money, and energy to actually investigate Hillary Clinton and a number of her misdeeds while she was Secretary of State, I think it would have yielded the Muellers of the world a lot more to get angry about than they found on Donald Trump. So let me ask you this. We see in the initial hours, a couple of days since the Mueller decision came down, you've got major politicians still in denial. Adam Schiff still goes on insisting that what he knows to be true is true, that Trump is a traitor and a colluder. You got Mad Maxine Waters. You've got CNN, that insufferable little George Costanza at CNN, gibbering on about how we did nothing wrong. Zucker, the president of the network, saying proud of how we handled this. Clearly the left is in denial about this. What do they do now? And can they repair their credibility in time to launch a campaign against Trump that would work?
I don't know if this is really about destroying Trump rather than Trump getting back to his adversaries. He said that to reporters. He's ready to declare war on folks who simply did not get this. I think we could probably expect, Dr. Duke, some declassifications coming down. I also think that the next big drop is Michael Horace's Inspector General report in the Justice Department. So that's going to be more salacious and interesting for people to look at than the contents of the Mueller report. I think that was constraining Robert Mueller, given that the Inspector General, who looks at the FBI, looks at the Department of Justice, and really he's going to write a very scathing report about some of the wrongdoings that were going on in running that agency. And I think we're also going to see Comey very, very exposed. And I think that's what's going to be the most interesting thing that comes out of this. And that's going to mute the Democrats in the narrative. And they're going to be forced to get off of this and move away from impeachment and really start talking about plans, which right now is $7 trillion green deals that are going to be too expensive for the Americans to afford, 70% tax rates that nobody wants to do. And they're going to be talking about how the socialistic side of the Democratic Party is pulling it over the edge at the left. And how does that compete with Donald Trump has got $10 trillion of new wealth, his magnificent job performance, who has placed 2 Supreme Court justices and perhaps could get a third if Ruth Bader Ginsburg should pass away. And then at the same time, he's building a wall. And he's declared a national emergency, which is rightfully, constitutionally, his powers to do. So that's a hard agenda to go up against if you're a Democrat right now.
Well, you know, it's funny. It's almost as if the oxygen swept back in the room. All of the attention on Donald Trump and all of the outlandish and unverified statements from the media in Hollywood and the politicians, it now allows us to take a look to really focus our attention on his main Democrat contenders for president, like you just said. And I see nothing but lightweights and lunatics. I don't see anything on that side now. Now that we don't have the cover of a cloud over Trump, dare I say it, the man in the orange hair has grown a few volumes compared to somebody. He's making these beta male betos look like what they are, lunatics. Now that you don't have that cloud, it seems like the comparison is a lot clearer now.
Very well said, Dr. Duke. One of the things I've been thinking about that I wanted to share with you today on the show is now that the Mueller report has been wrapped up and put to bed, Donald Trump is now free, and he has been already become a part of the American psyche. And that's what the left has been most afraid of. Presidents, after they're in 2 years in office, usually do become a part of the American psyche. That's why we call our presidents by their first names, except we did not do that with Barack Obama. But we weren't basically really connected to him. But most of the time, we talk about Harry and John Kennedy and Bill Clinton and now Donald Trump. They're like neighbors to us. They're like part of the family. And right now, Donald Trump is a part of the American psyche. I think that's the big takeaway that I wanted to share with the audience today. And with this Mueller cloud now swished away, and the sky is opened up, and the sun is rising over the blonde hair of Donald Trump, he's now a part of the American psyche. And that is fearful to the Democrats going into 2020. They needed to sort of create this caricature of him, villainized. But now he's been exonerated and clean, and he's free to really go on to a major, not only make America great agenda, but also keep America great. Because what we're also taking away from this, Dr. Duke, is that there was a witch hunt with Kavanaugh by the Democrats. There was a witch hunt by the Mueller investigation for Donald Trump. Those are going to be in the minds of the voters going into 2020.
The other thing you need to mention, I think we need to point out, Oliver, is that it's going to be a lot harder for the Democrats to make any kind of sustained charge of collusion or of unfitness for office now that we've had 2 consecutive years of crying wolf. Oliver, it's always a great pleasure to talk to you, my friend. Thanks for your insight, and we look forward to seeing you next time on Political Jazz.